Hi, my name is Macaulay. Welcome to today's webinar. Today we're going to be talking about online banking safety. So what we're going to be covering. So first of all, just an overview of online banking. Then we're going to be really getting into it. The types of online banking crimes that are happening. Who are the targeted groups? Who's being targeted by scammers in this light? What liability there are for scammer charges, and steps to protect yourself. So to get us started, about 9 out of 10 Canadians and about 6 out of 10 Americans use some form of online banking. So a lot of people are using online banking. That means there is a lot of money being moved around using online forms. And banks have invested a lot in making banking online more secure. However, there were over 33,000 reports of bank fraud in the first quarter of 2023, as reported by the FTC. So there is also a lot of looming threats in online banking. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that you using online banking makes you any less or any more at risk than if you don't use online banking yourself. There is obviously risk and benefit of doing it. So it's something that's sort of unavoidable in some capacity, that some of your banking information is going to be somehow in an online form. So understanding how you can protect yourself and understanding the risks out there are really important. All right, so what are the types of online banking fraud that is happening? So here are some of the ways that fraudsters may steal your bank account number. So first of all, this is one that we talk about a lot in all of our sessions so far, are phishing attacks. Apologies. And then we have cyber attacks, as well as data breaches, social engineering, hacking of payment processors, skimming and shimming devices, and mail theft. Some of these might sound entirely foreign to you, so don't worry, I'm going to go into detail about what these mean. So phishing attacks. So phishing attacks are basically, right, when scammers send fake messages. It might be an email, it might be a text message, but scammers can send fake bank text messages and emails, or even make phone calls that claim to be your bank or other trusted companies, maybe like Amazon or Apple or PayPal. I know I've received a couple myself from PayPal, or someone posing as PayPal. So sending you fake emails or texts to try to get you to hand over information. Now, this can look a couple of different ways. We're going to go over some examples of what these look like, or what common kind of fake text messages from these sources may be. There's also cyber attacks or malware attacks. So hackers can also break into your computer or other internet connected devices and find personal and financial information that you've stored on it. In other cases, cyber criminals may trick you into downloading malware that gives you full access to your devices. So there are a couple ways that you may be at risk of a cyber attack. It may be from visiting an unsafe website. It may be from using public Wi-Fi or unsafe public Wi-Fi without using a VPN or other safety precautions. It may also be from an email or a text message where you accidentally open an attachment and download a piece of malware. And that way they can get into your computer or your device and actually snoop around and find that information. So malware attacks are another way that hackers can get your bank account number or information, especially if you have it stored on there or you're logged in on there. Data breaches. So financial institutions are often hot targets for cyber criminals to hack into their database and then leak information to the dark web. In this case, there's not much that you can do about data breaches on your end. That is really up to financial institutions, and they do make their best efforts to protect you against them. And really, if this happens, you're usually not liable for this, but data breaches are another way that your information can be targeted and found. Social engineering. So this sometimes goes in line with what we talk about phishing, but social engineering means basically a scammer will get your information, again, either through a phishing email where they trick you into handing it over, or it may be through other methods. Maybe it's through a romance scam or some sort of other way that they gain your trust and then gain access to your information and gain access to your account. It can also be by fooling bank employees to get access to your accounts. Maybe they called in and were able to answer your security questions because they found information about you on social media that you posted that gave them the answers, right? So social engineering is another threat there. And then hacking payment processors or online retailers. So hackers may also target companies that are storing your bank account information, right? Such as online stores or payment processors. Maybe you use PayPal, maybe you use Amazon, maybe you use some of these, payment platforms where you can pay in for easy payments, right? Anywhere where your banking information is stored, your credit card information or banking information, if they hack those companies, then they can get your information from them. Again, these companies and retailers often put a lot of precautions in place to prevent this, but it can happen. So really, when we're talking about shopping and shopping online, always being sure to use really trusted online stores that, have a reputation of securing your information safely and having really great safety and security protocols around storing banking or credit card information. Or they can also use skimming or shimming devices. So this is probably one that you may have heard of on the news. It's a pretty kind of frightening one that sometimes can happen. So fraudsters might attach tiny devices to ATMs that steal your card details when you swipe or insert them. So using ATMs at a gas station or a convenience store is really the more likely scenario that this happens. So one easy way to protect yourself against this is just to use the ATMs at the actual bank to reduce your risk of this. Though this is not obviously the most common, it does happen, so something to be aware of. And stealing your mail. This is not online, but this does happen. It still happens. So some scammers may even actually dig through your physical mail or garbage for old bank statements or other documents that contain your financial information and use that as well to commit bank fraud. So what are the consequences of bank account number theft besides the obvious of just using your money? So first of all, ACH fraud, using your bank details for online shopping, using that information to launder money through your bank account. They may be able to use this information to create fraudulent checks, and they may be able to steal your identity to open subsequent accounts. They may be able to gain access to your other online banking information. So even if it's not accessing your money directly or entirely at that point, gain access to your other information and also to conduct tax fraud. So with the information that they may be able to get out of you from the aforementioned kind of methods, these are some of the things that they can do. Some other ways bank scammers may target people is through sending fake checks that legally bind you to some sort of action, by sending a spam email or fake text message that requires you to respond that way. So other ways that they may do that. And who do these scammers tend to target? So first of all, less experienced individuals. So a lot of cases, it's people who maybe just have signed up for a bank account for the first time and have signed up for online banking for the first time. This is often young people and older adults. Um, and really just anyone who's not vigilant, anyone who doesn't, set up two-factor authentications and practice on their devices and on their accounts, people who set weak passwords, people who are not looking out for red flags when they're opening emails or giving over information. So anyone who's not vigilant. That being said, though, people in their 20s are more than twice as likely as older adults to fall victim to check scams, according to the FTC. So this is something that affects really anyone at any age, specifically, actually, anyone else, young people, which is maybe not something that we often think of. But these scammers can be really good, and they can be really tricky. And I think also when it comes to online banking, when we are receiving communications that maybe we think are coming from a financial institution or bank, we tend to be more trusting of those communications. But those communications can be just as easily faked as can, any other communication from another company or anyone else. So it's important to know that online banking scams, people are also posing as banks and financial institutions, not just individuals or social media companies when they're sending things like phishing emails. So another thing to talk about is, can someone use your identity to commit bank fraud? Yes, they can. When scammers gain access to your personal information by phishing, for example, they send you an email, they ask you for some information to reset an account of yours. You didn't actually have to reset like a password on an account. Now they have this information. They can do one or more of the following things. They can access your bank account. They can create new bank accounts that you're unaware of. So when accessing your bank account, right, that might be pretty evident from the beginning. You may notice money's coming out, money's coming in large sums and then leaving. But if they create a new account, this may not be something that you're entirely aware of right off the bat. They can just spend your money, really most straightforward way for them to do it. But they can also use this stuff to access government benefits on your behalf. And they can also use this to target your contacts. So you may just be, the first stop on a long chain of them going down and committing bank fraud. So when it comes to that, it's always important to protect yourself, because it's not only just protecting yourself, it's also protecting others around you. And scammers may also access your emails and social media accounts. So as I was saying, like accessing, targeting your contacts. If they find your friends, your loved ones, they may be able to carry out bank scams on them too. We've talked in previous sessions about sharing information online, sharing details, right? If you think about some of the ways that you might use to protect your bank account, especially if you're using online banking. I know my bank uses, and every time I log in online, asks for those security questions. They may be things like, what street did you grow up on? What's your favorite book? What's your mother's maiden name? And I don't know, maybe I posted on Facebook and I talked about my favorite book, or I took a picture of my old house and I said where I grew up, and you can see the street address, and then someone has that information, especially if my account is public. So being aware of what we're posting online, because it's not just affecting us in the immediate, it may be affecting our other online accounts, and it can also affect people in our lives if we're sharing details about them too. Not to say you can't share online, just making sure that your accounts are secure in that way. So there are common bank scams. So we talked about some of the methods to commit some sort of banking fraud or banking scam, but there's common scams that are often done through, some sort of communication, phishing, or emails. And the most common scams that we see in banking are as follows. Overpayment scams. So what overpayment scams are, they target online vendors as well as sellers. So a scammer will pose as a buyer and send you a check, a money order, or some proof of payment from an online payment processor for more than the purchase price. Then they'll say, "Oh, I accidentally sent too much by accident. Can you refund the difference either through an online payment method or a wire transfer?" But the original payment method that they gave you was actually fraudulent, meaning you lose both the refunded money and the cost of the sold product. So this is not as much for if you're an individual, but maybe you sell stuff on Facebook Marketplace. Maybe you're moving into a smaller place, so you're downsizing and you're selling off some furniture and you're doing it on Facebook Marketplace. This is something that can happen on those fronts. So overpayment, the actual initial payment was fraudulent. They asked you for the money back. Another thing is automatic debit scams, so also known as automatic withdrawal scams. So these involve unauthorized withdrawals from your bank account and typically checking accounts. So scammers get access to your bank account numbers, maybe through fraudulent telemarketer calls or by stealing them from some unsecure websites when you sign up for a free trial, right? Any of the methods we talked about before about how they can get your actual banking information and number. And once a scammer has access to your account information, they can just debit your account every month without your knowledge or approval of it. So they're just setting up automatic payments. And this may not be something that you notice. Maybe it's a small amount, but over a long time, it comes out bit by bit. And so it's a bit, more subtle of a scam, potentially not taking out huge wads of cash at once. There's also fake check cashing scams. So bank scams often will prey on your kind nature. So during a fake check cashing scam, a fraudster will wait outside a bank or another financial institution and ask you to help them cash a check. They'll tell you they forgot their ID or don't have an account but need the money right away. But only it's after you deposit the check and hand over the money that you again find out it was a bad check. So when it doesn't clear, the funds are taken from your account. Now, this is in real life scam, obviously, but one to look out for because fake check cashing scams are also running rampant online as well now, especially on platforms like Venmo. I don't have the accounts or whatever to be able to receive this money. Can you just give me cash and I'll have them send the money over to you, sort of situation via Venmo or any sort of payment platform. Unsolicited check fraud. So with unsolicited check fraud, you get a check you didn't ask for in the mail. Maybe it's for a rebate or a refund on overpayments, but rather than free money, these checks include a fine print that legally binds you to a loan, membership, or other costly long-term commitment. So if you ever get an unsolicited check in the mail, we don't cash it or be really careful, read the fine print, make sure you understand what this check is and where it's coming from. Government imposture scams. So this is a big one. I get these all the time. I get calls maybe twice a week from someone claiming to be, the CRA or whatever. But Americans have reported 1.8 million complaints about robocalls in 2022. Obviously, that number is a bit lower in Canada, but it's a big thing. Like I said, I get these calls at least twice a week. So they come a lot. They're really working with volume to try to, scam as many people as possible. So they're either pretending to be, from the government, law enforcement, or an agency like, maybe Medicare or the IRS. And during these calls, the imposter will threaten you, right, jail time for outstanding debt that require you to pay with a gift card. They might claim you've won a prize that requires payment of taxes and fees before you can process it. And these happen right over phone calls. These can also be done maybe over text message as well. So these imposter scams are pretty rampant. They're happening a lot. And with these, it's just really important to remember that the government and your bank We'll never ask for your personal information in an email or in text. And if you're ever unsure, just hang up and call back the official agency phone number, right? There's nothing ever so urgent that can happen over the phone, email, or text message that you can't, take a second, look up the correct contact information, and call back to make sure that everything is in good order. Phishing scams, generally, as we said, so the type of social engineering attack where you receive an email or text that looks like it's from a popular service, maybe from Apple, and again from your bank, and they tell you things like someone signed into your account, you have to reset your password, you click on the link, and you end up sharing your personal information or potentially downloading malware on your device that they can use to get more information out of you. And phishing scams happen in all forms. They happen via text. They can even happen via phone call. So, they take different forms, but phishing emails are the most common form of this. So I'm seeing on my end specifically more and more texts coming in on my device. I don't know if anyone else is. I'm seeing that. I'm getting them again very often on my phone now. So they are more and more common to come over text, especially as more people engage or store information, or maybe downsize just having a phone or like a tablet rather than a computer. Charity scams. So we talked about this one last month, but scammers will pretend to run a reputable charity, like a veterans charity, and they may call or email you for a donation, and many of them may go so far as to request personal information or banking details, such as your debit card number, which grants them full access to your account and funds. So, just through pretending to be a charity, asking for your payment information to process the donation, and then they have that information. There's also online lending scams. So if you're in a fix and you can't get a loan from your bank, you may be tempted to try an online lender. They're out there, but many of these services are really just trying to scam you online. So bank scammers will set up fake websites designed to commit loan fraud, or they may email you with some sort of special offer. And when you apply, they'll ask for all the sensitive information that you would expect, like your banking details, your social security number. And once they have access to this information, they can be the ones to actually open real loans up in your name or provide you with a false loan and request payment right away. And only after would you realize it's a fraud. And then we have sweepstake and lottery scams. Again, you might get an email claiming you won the lottery, some sort of sweepstake, a sum of money or other prizes. You get it, but in order to get your prize, they demand you share sensitive information or send money in order to receive your prize. So if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is, especially online. So just always being wary of anything that's promising too much, and also asking for too much information, asking for money in some sort of sense of urgency or right off the bat before giving you more details. But one of the things, like we talked about, that is the most prevalent, that we're seeing a lot, are fake bank text messages or emails that are coming through that can be used to get information out of you. So kind of phishing and social engineering scams. So the 6 most common fake bank text messages or messages that you might get that are out there, so to be aware of them, are as follows. So first of all, your account has been locked. So you may get a text message like this saying, we detected unusual activity in your bank account. Please follow this link to verify your identity. You won't be asked to verify your identity through any sort of link. If you needed to do that or verify your identity, they would probably ask you to go in person to the bank and provide ID. Alternatively, you may just go log in directly to your online banking platform rather than going through a link that someone sent in some sort of message. There was a large purchase from your account. So maybe you get a message, again, either a text or else an email that says that some sort of purchase is on hold. And if you did make it, yes. If not, your action is required immediately. Please click this link right now to fix it, right? So you didn't make this purchase because this purchase doesn't exist. It's made up. But you're going to click on this link. You're going to give over information to access your account. And then there you are there. If you reply to a text message, Donald just asked. So right in these sorts of scams, this one specifically, they're trying to force you to click the link without thinking. If you reply directly, they may respond. So there may not be an initial risk of just replying directly to the message, but it may tell them a couple things. So if you did say reply, stop or opt out or whatever, it just may tell you that you are responsive. So it may cause them to target you more because they realize, okay, this person is at least responsive and not just deleting the message. If you respond in like a text message, of course, if you don't give up any sort of information, and you may just say like, screw off, whatever, that doesn't really, put you at any sort of risk in terms of like you're not giving away information. It may just tell them something about you, that you're a responsive individual. So they may just, continue to try again to scam you, but just responding to the message itself with no information shouldn't necessarily be a risk factor. Someone tried to log into your bank account. So we do sometimes get messages like this to say, hey, there was some suspicious activity, or did you log in, from this device? This can happen. I get these a lot with like social media more specifically. But because we do actually get these messages, scammers have now taken on these messages and have been using them to try to commit scams. So in this one, your debit card has been restricted due to suspicious activity. Please visit. And then there is the link listed there. You click on it and it takes you. And one thing to note is that when you are seeing a link, less so in text messages, because I actually don't know if you can do this in text messages, but definitely you can do this in emails. Even if the link itself looks legitimate, so it says www.tdbank.com. I don't know what their actual website is, but say it says the actual URL. They can also still like spoof that. So when you create one of those hyperlinks to those URLs that's clickable in an email, you can make it say whatever you want, but the actual underlying redirect link is not necessarily what it says. So even if it does say the correct website URL, don't take that as a sign that it's not fraudulent. They could just be still spoofing that website URL for you. So just never click on links in emails. Again, if you do think it's legitimate, you can always call your bank or go directly to the website yourself and log into your account online to check for any sort of communications. You need to update your account information. So your debit card has been blocked because you need to verify your details via this link. And what details do you think they're going to ask you for? They're going to ask you for your bank account number. They're maybe going to ask you for your password, maybe your address, maybe your social security number. This is quite simple. They just can ask for all the details because they've asked you to verify it, and you're going to go through and do it. Someone is sending you money. So you have a deposit that needs to be accepted. You may get this text message. You think, oh, someone's sending me money. Great. You go in, you put in your information so you can accept the funds into your bank account. And again, they have your information there. And then fake password resets or two-factor authentication codes. So you successfully reset your password. If you didn't take this action, call blah, 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 or text stop to opt out. Or it may say, here's your login code. If this wasn't you, click a link. And then you click the link to reset your password or whatever it is. These come in a lot. Again, I see these more in email than text message, but this is also one that's coming in quite frequently now too. So those are some of the risks that are posed to us. A lot of the big ones that are things that we can really be vigilant about and think about are those phishing scams, right? Just straight up giving people information over because they've asked for it, because they've tricked us in some sort of way. There are those other risks. There are the risk of hacking, or our information being found on other websites. And there's things we can do to protect ourselves in those cases. For example, we can never save our credit card or banking information to our Amazon account. It's way less convenient because we might have to type it in every single time, but we can choose to do that, to just not save the information. So in the case that that account is hacked, or they have a data breach, that information isn't given over. And we can be really vigilant about, not using public ATMs and all these things. But really, like, the biggest thing that, we tend to get confronted with on a daily basis when it comes to these sort of scams are these phishing scams, the text messages, the phone calls, and the emails. So really being vigilant about those, especially because, maybe we're not always on our, on the lookout, and because it's just kind of a constant stream, we might miss one, right? So just being aware. Things happen. Sometimes we do fall victim to these scams. It is, not that uncommon for it to happen. So it's not something that we should feel ashamed or embarrassed by. It can happen to the best of us, but we do need to be aware of, what steps we can take to make sure that we are protected after the fact, that we're able to reclaim or get back our money that might have been lost. So are you liable for charges that scammers make using your bank account? No, you shouldn't be, but there may be some steps that you have to take in order to make sure that you can properly get your money back, and get things in order. So you have to submit a claim in the case to your bank or financial institution when these things do happen. So for the sake of ACH, I don't know why I'm having a hard time saying that. ACH fraud, you must notify your bank within 60 days of your statement to avoid paying for illegitimate ACH transactions. So with this, it's just knowing right away and really quickly. For e-commerce purchases and withdrawals, you also have a 60-day time frame to avoid the charges. And again, you can file a claim with your bank online or over the phone. Acting swiftly is always the best method here. You do have 60 days. So if you are just getting, mailed bank statements, you're not using online banking statements, you do have time to deal with this. But this is one of the things about why I think that there are actually safety benefits to using online banking. And it's that we have access to our banking information and transactions immediately. We don't have to wait till the end of the month to notice, oh no, something's awry, something's gone off here. We can log in and we can check our transactions immediately and know when something is up and know when something is wrong, especially if our bank or other safety protocols we have in place have not worked or have not warned us. So that's one benefit. So yes, you have 60 days in both cases to make claims if you've had losses. Once you notify your bank or financial institution, they have generally 10 business days to investigate the issue, or up to 20 days for victims with a bank account that were open for less than a month. And the bank must correct the issue within 1 business day of declaring that a crime has occurred and report its findings to you within another 3 business days. So that's kind of the timeline of how this is going to go down if it does happen. So just something to be aware of so you understand what position you're in, and how you're going to protect yourself there. So you can make these claims by calling your bank. You can go in person as well to make these claims and follow the instructions on how to do so. It is always important, though, when you're making claims of any sort of fraud or scam, that you make sure that you collect as much information as you can on your part as proof of this this incident, right? Whether it was the email, making sure that you take screenshots of the email you received, of the communications you had with the person who committed the fraud, whether it was via text message or otherwise, any of that information that you can have to give over when you're making these claims. Now, with all this talk of having your bank account number used against you or other information, you may be wondering, can I be safe? Can I trust anyone? Can I be safe with anyone? There are people and institutions where it is safe for you to give your bank account numbers to, and kind of these alone. So for tax filing services that you use to do tax filings, that is a fine option to give your bank account number to. Your employer, they need it for direct deposit. Online payment and money transfer services like PayPal and Zelle are highly encrypted and safe platforms to use to give your bank account numbers to. This is apart from me saying that sometimes you get phishing emails from PayPal. They are often a target of phishing emails, but their platform itself is encrypted and safe. I know that in the past, long ago, they've had some breaches, but again, they've really taken steps and are pretty much just as secure as a bank in terms of your information being stored on there, in terms of how much they protect your data. Credit card or loan providers for automatic bill withdrawals, and trusted friends and family members for check payments. That being said, do remember that most cases of elder abuse and other fraud are committed by family members. To really make sure it's someone you trust in that case, but you can, we trust a trusted family member or friend that you know has your best interests at heart. But the bottom line is only share your bank account details with people or companies you know and trust. And if you have any suspicions, look for a safer alternative or move on that. So to finish this off, steps to protect yourself. It goes back to some of the things we talked about before. So do not cash any checks paying in excess. Instead, return them to the sender, right? Those overpayment scams being the reason for that. Only use encrypted websites when you are doing anything that involves money online, like entering your debit card or credit card details. So always be looking for that precursor before the URL that reads https:// and that little locked padlock in the left corner of the address bar. If you don't know what that looks like, that's going to be this little thing up here in the corners of my screen right now. It might be small, but this is that security that you're looking for. Never share sensitive information over the phone. Unless, again, it's with a trusted friend or family member, but even then, use precautions and safety, and consider using a family safety password to confirm it's really there. Then we've talked about this before in the past. That family password thing, I think really important, especially as people are getting better at faking voices as well and spoofing phone numbers. Setting up a family password that's just delivered like orally as you're talking on the phone is a great way to protect yourself. Never share, select charity websites carefully. So if you are planning to give, make sure that you do a lot to research the charity that you're giving to. Again, we talked about charity scams last month, and I provided some website that you can use to check the legitimacy of charities, things like Charity Watch, it's called, to check them. So do that. Never pay to redeem prizes. That's just straightforward. If you get a prize, you should just get the prize. You shouldn't have to pay anything to get it. Uh, Only borrow money from banks and certified lenders. Double check unsolicited checks with your bank before cashing them, right? So if you're getting a bank that's some sort of payment for some sort of service or some sort of fund, just make sure that you check them. All right, and if you have any additional questions about this topic, you can always call us at Cyber Seniors toll free at 844-217-3057 or visit us at cyberseniors.org.